Hello, everybody, and welcome to my weekly live Q&A, where we talk about everything combat sports world and more. My name is Danny Segura. Today is June 30th, the last day of the month. And yes, this is installment number 25, so a nice little milestone there. We've gotten a little bit far, right? So yeah, this is pretty neat. Sorry, I didn't submit the tweet earlier today to submit questions. I didn't throw that out there. I got tied up with some things I'm working on, and basically kind of threw the tweet just with a couple hours before this live Q&A. So I apologize for that. So I know we didn't get that many Twitter questions, but if you like to ask questions, you always know that the YouTube live chat is where you can go to as well to ask questions in real time. So we got like 3 questions via Twitter. Again, that was my bad. I apologize on that. So I guess maybe today's live chat will be a little bit shorter than usual, depending on what you guys ask on the YouTube live chat. So we'll kind of play it by ear. But again, apologies for that. But hey, better late than never, right? So let's get right into it. Um, oh, by the way, I'm sporting my Atletico Madrid jersey. We tied 2-2 with Barcelona. Weird game and not the best result, but hey, I'll take a point. As long as we place third, I think we're good. And at this point, La Liga is it's a 2-horse race right now. So as long as we place third, I think we'll be okay and secure a Champions League spot. Speaking of Champions League, today I'm sipping on a Heineken, official sponsor of Champions League. Shouts out to them. Decent beer, not bad. So let's get right into it. All right. First question by the seaside. Um, Actually, let me take that back. Not the first question. First question by Liam O'Brien. Liam asks, do you think Poirier versus Ferguson is a title eliminator? Should one loss to a shortish notice opponent put Tony back at the queue for a title shot? There's that Chico jumping over there. So yeah, a lot to talk about. So I should have said this right at the top, but we're coming off UFC Vegas 4, I believe, right? AKA UFC on ESPN 12, which happened over the weekend, where Dustin Poirier defeated Dan Hooker in a really, really crazy fight. One of the craziest fights I've seen this year. One of the craziest fights I've seen, period. Certainly one of the best fights in lightweight history, UFC lightweight history. And yeah, he got a decision win and pretty much proved to everybody what we all knew, which is he is a badass. He is one of the most durable and toughest fighters in the UFC roster. One of the fighters with the most heart, and he's still at the very top. I mean, you can't deny the guy is not at a world class level. So so yeah, big win for Dustin Poirier. Not the biggest setback for Dan Hooker. I think there's plenty of room for him to make a comeback. Certainly still young, maybe not in age. I believe he's 30 years old, but certainly in MMA years, I do think he's a guy that we're gonna see stick around for quite some time. So it wasn't the worst thing for him. Plus, I think his stock went up after that performance, and he himself also proved that he belongs at a world class level. I mean, to be able to compete in that manner with Dustin Poirier and go to that length and do that kind of damage and really take Dustin Poirier to the edge, which very few guys are able to do. I mean, it's pretty damn impressive. So I consider that somewhat of a win as well for Dan Hooker. But yes, anyway, so Poirier is back in the mix. He's certainly up there, a title contender right now. And the big question, I guess, Liam trying to address here is what's next. He's suggesting a bout with Tony Ferguson, who lost in an interim title fight when he took on short notice replacement Justin Gaethje at UFC 249. That fight didn't go too well for him. Got quite beat up. And, the question is, what do you do with Ferguson, right? Because it just felt like, he just needed to fight for the title. And he didn't get that chance. I'm talking about the undisputed title, of course. And now what do you do with him? So Poirier is an interesting spot. I don't like that fight as a title eliminator because one, we talked about it and we addressed this on the last live Q&A last Tuesday, which is I don't like guys that are coming off a loss or lost the title and they win one fight and then they're back in the mix fighting for the belt again. Granted, this is a little bit different, and Liam, I do think you make a little bit of a point there, saying, hey, it was kind of a solid for the company. He didn't have to take the fight. I mean, by that point, he didn't need to prove he was the number one contender. And I'm talking about Tony Ferguson. We already knew that. We've known that for years now. The guy's been the number one contender for years. So you do kind of give him a little bit of a freebie there and a pass. However, despite his age being 36, I don't want to see him sort of have a long road back to the title. I think that's probably not in his future. I don't think Tony Ferguson will stick around MMA for that long. However, I don't get the impression that he's going to retire in a fight or two. I do think he's going to stick around for quite a bit. So with that being said, if you still have one more title run in you, the best way to build steam and go that direction, it's probably not to fight Dustin Poirier. One, because again, dude, it took you how many years to get a title shot? So you think coming off a loss and a win over Poirier is going to get you a title shot? I have my doubts. And also, dude, the guy just took a world-class beating from Justin Gaethje, and Ferguson has taken a lot of damage in his career as well. So I'd like for him to take some time off. Now, granted, I understand Poirier also took a lot of damage, so maybe they both need a break and their timelines could actually line up. But I'd like to see Ferguson take somebody a little bit more down the ladder. I think maybe like a Charles Oliveira fight would be fun. A fight that would put him in a position where he's got to win. He's back on the win column. He's back on Tony Ferguson's way, and then he could be presented with an opportunity that could then put him as a contender for the title. So at that point, a title eliminator. And I do think Dustin Poirier, with this win and this performance, he's a step ahead of him. One, because he's coming off a win, obviously, and two, because that fight was just ridiculous. So I'd like to see that fight. I think it's a good fight. I think, obviously from a action standpoint, is a fight I'd love to see, but I'd keep those two guys away from each other for a little bit, at least not yet. I think Poirier, look, depending on what McGregor decides to do, but I think Poirier and McGregor too, I think that's something I'd like to watch. Make that a title eliminator. It seems Khabib is pretty set on fighting Gaethje, and Gaethje is pretty set on fighting Khabib. So that's what's going to happen. I'm looking at the rankings right now. Look, Conor shouldn't. This is all, yeah. Dustin Poirier is in a weirder situation. He's ranked number 2 right now. The only person ahead of him is Gaethje. For now, I think keep those two guys away. I think down the line, because remember, a lot of these matchups make sense not only because of the circumstances of each fighter, but also what's going around in the division as well. So for now, I think let's put that question in ice. I think Dustin Poirier should just take some time off, recover from that brutal fight, enjoy the victory, enjoy the win, enjoy the family, and rest up. And then maybe once we get some clarity, whether it is, again, because think about this. At some point, Khabib is going to have to fight Gaethje. And if Gaethje beats Nurmagomedov, then Dustin Poirier has probably... I mean, I feel like Nurmagomedov will probably have a good claim for an immediate rematch, likely, but Dustin Poirier would still have a pretty strong argument to get the next title shot. I mean, he's got a win over Gaethje, which was a fantastic fight, one fight of the night, one of the best fights in the lightweight division, and he's coming off a big win, so that puts you in line right there for the title. So I wouldn't hate that bout. However, if Khabib does retain the title, Dustin just fought Khabib, so I don't see a path there. So maybe that's when maybe a Tony Ferguson matchup would make sense. I'd like to think maybe a Conor one or a Nate Diaz would actually make a little bit more sense. But again, we'll see how the lightweight division is looking then. So for now, just rest up, man, and we'll see what the future holds for both fighters. But if you ask me, as of now, as of June 30th, I'd keep those two guys away for now. But yes, a great question. All right, second question. This is the real second question. I messed up the order here. I mean, this weekly live Q&A is it's off to a great start, right? But we're here. All right. So the Seaside asks, will there be any pre-fight press conferences in 2020? So definitely not. 100%. Well, there's kind of been, we've had the virtual media day, and then we've had basically a scrum with Dana White at some point. That's what's been going down for these Vegas cards, and even UFC 249, which went down in Florida, and the trio of events that went down in Florida. But damn, it seems like so far ago, but it really wasn't. It was like what, last month in May. It just feels like it was 6 months ago. But anyways, stuff like that. If you consider that a press conference, then yeah, we're gonna have more of that. But as far as having several people sitting down on a table and discussing with the media, and really like the press conferences we're used to seeing, where fighters go back and forth and they're in the same stage and whatnot, I don't think so. I mean, if you look at the protocols that they rolled out in order to have events during these times of pandemic, it limits interactions with people, and really that's the main thing. So if you look at the interviews that are being done, like after the octagon, they're being done through the actual broadcast and a camera. There's nobody going in the octagon and getting close to the fighter and talking to the fighter. Same thing with like a virtual media day. I don't know if we do upload the videos over at MMA Junkie, obviously, as far as what goes down in the virtual media day. But the only thing is we upload like individual, I guess, scrums. So, fighter A, fighter B. But as we're doing it live, you see a fighter walk away and they leave a few minutes before the next fighter comes up. Staff goes in there and wipes everything down, make sure everything's disinfected, from the chair, the microphone, everything. So that's for individuals. So I can't imagine a scenario where you have multiple people on stage, just in close proximity, and then getting them off stage, crossing paths and all that. And also, these fighters, they're going to talk smack. And what if someone wants to get up and do something, right? And we've seen that in the past as well. It would be breaking the protocol. And we know that's how they get their license to have fights. That's why the UFC couldn't do fights originally in Vegas, right? They didn't have protocol. Now they do. But if they break it, or if they start steering away from it, then that's when there's issues. So no, for 2020, I really don't see any pre-fight pressers as we know them. There might be some modification, kind of like the post-fight pressers that we see, where it's individual fighters. But as far as like the build-up that we're used to seeing, like the last that we had, I was actually there, which was for UFC 248. And yeah, like that, no way. With fans and media all huddled up together, that ain't happening. So yeah, 2021, even 2021, I don't see it. Maybe towards the end, but early on, I mean, just look at sort of what's going on in the country right now. The spike of COVID is going up quite high. It's ridiculous. Yeah. We did not crush any curve. It kind of plateaued, and then fuck it, let's just reopen. And now we're seeing something. I think Florida. I pay close attention to Florida, obviously, because my parents live there, my brother. So yeah. But they had like 8,000 new cases. I think it was on Sunday or something like that. Like, it's ridiculous. And right now it's just cases, but the deeper we go into this, we're gonna see the consequences of that. And I don't want to be an alarmist or whatever, but I live here in New York. I live a few blocks off, close to a hospital, Wyckoff Medical Center. I saw 2 containers with dead bodies in them, that were there. They literally closed the street just so they can put out these containers. I would bike around and see people, ambulances pulling up at apartments and taking people out. The people, it was crazy. I mean, things got really weird. As I told you guys before, my downstairs neighbor, basically one of the guys that worked at the restaurant below, passed away as well. And he was a Real Madrid fan and would always make fun of me for being Atletico. And we had a really, I mean, I see him every day. We're pretty tight. So, I mean, I've seen it. Things got rough over here in New York. And I don't know if the rest of the country thought maybe we're just being alarmists or whatever, but I've seen it firsthand. Like, things get rough. So, best of luck to everyone. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, do social distancing the best that you can. And if you have to get in close quarters, please wear a mask. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But with all that going on, I don't think we're going to see press conferences and things that are really non-essential to host fights. Ultimately, like fighting, the actual fighting is what you need to have fights, obviously, and you can't go any other way around that. But you can have different type of press conferences and all these other things and still have the ultimate product, which is fights. So yeah, no pressers for now. Now there was another question, but I didn't have time to actually feature it on, do the cutout and feature it on the actual stream. So I apologize for again not putting out the tweet earlier in the day. And this is Michael Terrell, a local here, a regular in this live Q&A. So Michael Terrell asks, what happens to the heavyweight title if Stipe wins and retires? So at UFC 252, which happens August 15th, Stipe Miocic will be defending his heavyweight title in a rematch with former UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. It's a fight I'm looking forward to the most out of all these title fights that have been announced. It's a great fight, great trilogy. I think it's historic, and we're gonna look back at this trilogy and look back at it fondly. And I feel like it's gonna be. I feel like there's certain rivalries and fights that sort of mark and maybe not mark, but certainly they become sort of the face of eras for each division, right? I mean, you can't talk about like the heavyweight division without Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos fighting back, that trilogy. You can't do that. I mean, that was so important for that division, right? This will be much like it, but very much, a much more modern rivalry, obviously, because it's happening now and not back then. But certainly these two are the best, and we're gonna see them fight a third time. So with that being said, I think we know that Cormier intends to retire after this fight, win or lose. Now Stipe is the big sort of mystery factor here because he is older. I believe he is 37 years old, just out of the top of my head. But let me double check on that. I started double checking on that actually once. I don't know if you guys remember. I said Cyborg. No, I did a video about Cyborg signing with Bellator, and I said she was like 36 or 34. No, 36. And she actually was watching the live stream, and on the video, she actually commented. She's like, "No, Danny, I'm 34. Come on, don't put some age on me." And it was all fun and games. We're cool, but yeah. So definitely got to double check that. So yeah, Stipe is 37 years old. Actually, turns 38 on August 19th. So 4 days removed from his birthday, he'll be defending his heavyweight title. So at 38, he's had some pretty big fights. He also has a second job as a fireman. Stipe doesn't really come off as the type of guy like McGregor, like very flashy. He's not buying crazy cars. I feel like he lives a pretty modest lifestyle. I'm sure he lives comfortable and enjoys being comfortable and probably has his things that, he likes to spend his money on. But again, he doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's, going crazy and blowing money left and right. So yeah, he's had some big fights. He's defended the belt for quite some time. So, it wouldn't surprise me if at 38 he decides to walk away. He's made some decent money. After that, I mean, there are some big fights. Probably the biggest fight will be Ngannou, but he beat Ngannou as well. So, you start questioning. I mean, just look at this lineup. I'm going to read you the lineup. He's beat Cormier. He's beat Ngannou. He's beat JDS, Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum, Andre Arlovsky, Mark Hunt, Gabriel Gonzaga, and that's pretty much it as far as the elite of the heavyweight division, right? I mean, after beating names like that, I mean, you can add sure Curtis Blades to your list and a few others here and there, but I don't know how much they will add to the legacy. So I could definitely see a scenario where he walks away after UFC 252. Anyways, so let's assume he does walk away. What happens to the heavyweight division and what happens to the title? The title, I think DC will retire, win or lose. So I think there will be a vacant fight for the heavyweight strap, and that'll probably involve, obviously, Francis Ngannou. It has to. And then the second factor, who knows? I mean, do you do a third fight with Curtis Blades? Curtis Blades is 0-2 against Ngannou. It feels like there's not much traction there. So let's look at the heavyweight rankings. Maybe there is another interesting name that you could plug in there. Um, oh, right next to the heavyweight rankings is the light heavyweight rankings, and at the top just happens to be John Jones. I would actually think that would be the fight to make. For one, we're already interested in Ngannou versus Jones non-title, and you throw a vacant heavyweight title in there, up the stakes. You got a pretty big fight. Um, yeah. So I say that's what happens actually. I'm yeah. If Stipe and DC retires, it'll be Ngannou versus John Jones for the vacant heavyweight title. So I can totally see that happening. Are you kidding me? Yeah, for sure, 100%. Jones is about it. Ngannou's about it. The UFC is the only one that's not about it, but they have other cards to play. I mean, they have a heavyweight champion right now, and they have a few other big fights that they can pull off. But once DC and Stipe are out of the picture, what other fight are you going to do at heavyweight that's big? Again, you're going to do a trilogy fight between Ngannou and Curtis Blades, and Curtis Blades is a fantastic fighter. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to put him down here, but it's just that's what it is. When you're 0-2 against someone, it's just hard to sell. So maybe that. We'll see what happens with Derek Lewis. Again, Derek Lewis versus Ngannou. I think that's a fight that the UFC would actually revisit. I mean, I don't think how the hell it could be possible that that could be recreated. I mean, it has to. This time, it has to be a good fight or a fight. Period. Right. And I think Derek Lewis. How's Derek Lewis been doing in the UFC? Kind of forgot about him. He's been a bit quiet. Derek Lewis. Okay, yeah, he's not coming off a loss. He's on a 2-fight win streak, and I believe he's got a fight booked, right? He is fighting, yeah, Alexei Olenek in August, just August 8th. So the card prior. So yeah, if he's on a 3-fight win streak, I can see that as well. So I think it would be obviously Francis Ngannou. You got to put him in that equation, and then depending on timelines and negotiations and money as well, you could see alternatives between John Jones and Derek Lewis. I think that's obviously if Derek Lewis gets past Olenek. Other than that, I mean, I don't see any other heavyweight that can make a claim. I mean, you never know. Maybe they rethink the Curtis Blades thing, but I don't think so. Okay, so A Passive Woken is back at it again. The biggest Dustin Poirier fan in the world. He actually submitted a question 3 minutes ago. So this is the last Twitter question. And he says, am I too late? Clearly not. I want Charles versus Dustin. Let's get C. All right. New blood in the top of the division. Yes, I agree. Actually, that'd be kind of fine, I guess. It does feel to me that Dustin needs a bigger fight, so I would probably side more with a Conor McGregor fight, but again, he's retired, right? We'll see when he comes back. And a Nate Diaz, man, when that Nate Diaz fight got announced, I remember there was some real buzz about that fight, some real buzz. I mean, those two guys are OGs. They're tough as shit. They are known to go to the distance and put on good fights towards the end of the fights. So why not? Why not? And it's a big fight for Dustin as well. So that could be it. But I do like the Charles matchup. But again, it feels like in that one, Dustin would be taking a step back, and I don't necessarily think at this point that's sort of the move. So I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily love it either. So again, much like I answered in the question with Dustin and Tony Ferguson, with that potential matchup, it's like certain things make sense now, but and yes, keep in mind always the trajectory of fighters when discussing these type of matchups. But so many things happen around in the division as well. I mean, you never know. Champion can vacate the belt, injuries, etc. So Dustin is in no position to fight right now, given the fact that he just came off a war. So ask me about Dustin a month or two removed. Once there are some lightweight fights going on, once the division, has a little bit of time removed from that fight, and as well as is Conor McGregor going to stay retired or not, and all this other stuff. So don't hate it, but don't love it either. The Charles versus Dustin suggestion. All right, so that does it for Twitter questions. I'm gonna take things over to the YouTube live chat. So if you got questions, now's your time to throw them. All right. Broad Street Sports says, appreciate the hard work, Danny. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. You're dead, Jack. With a good question here. So, should Woodley fight Neal? If not Woodley, who's next for Neal? So I thought you would actually reverse the question. Who's next for Woodley? And I think that's very interesting because Woodley's at a very interesting spot in his career, and he recently opened up about where he's at, and he was basically like, "Look, I'm no position to call anybody out, so I'm kind of just like, whoever you want to throw my way, I'll fight. You know, I'm coming off 2 losses, lost 10 rounds basically. He didn't win a single round in those 2 fights. Didn't look promising at all. Looked like he's on a decline. But again, this is a guy that's a former UFC champion. This is the guy that, at his best, he's by far one of the best welterweights in the history of the UFC. Right behind George St. Pierre. Who else could you put in between them? I mean, it might be St. Pierre and Woodley, really. That might be the order, at least for now. Maybe Kamaru Usman can rewrite that at some point. But for now, I think it's GSP Woodley. But yeah, I guess you're a big Neal fan. So let's pull up the rankings here. It's interesting how the UFC is going to handle Tyron Woodley. Again, he's like 38, 39, so he doesn't have the most time in the world. So you wonder, what approach should you take with Woodley, right? Either use his big name to bring up, some of the up-and-comers, their stock, right? Bring that up and kind of push some of the prospects and some of the guys that will be the future, or do you build a path back to the top for him, or not build, but like help him in with certain kind of matchups? Because at the end of the day, he is a big name, and there are some interesting rivalries there. Like at some point, I want to watch Woodley versus Covington. I don't know. Certainly, the rivalry was fun, but as far as the matchup, I mean, you have to think that Covington is the big favorite, right? At this point, with the performances that Woodley's had, I mean, they haven't been great. You know what I'm saying? So let's look at the rankings right now. So Geoff Neal is number 10. So I wouldn't hate that matchup. I think he needs a big fight, and Tyron Woodley offers just that. So I don't hate it. Yeah, I think at this point with Woodley, you give him someone that's either top 10, outside of the top 10, or just hovering just outside of the top 5. I don't think you match him up with anybody in the top 5. I mean, he's not fighting Covington. I don't think that's the next move. Not going to fight Masvidal. Definitely not Leon Edwards. And Stephen Thompson, I mean, they fought twice before. Damian Maia, they fought already. Don't want to see that again. And then right below Damian Maia, who's number 7, then things get kind of interesting. Michael Chiesa. Chiesa Woodley. That's kind of interesting. I wouldn't hate it. RDA Woodley, wouldn't hate it. Geoff Neal versus Woodley, wouldn't hate it as well. Yeah, there's some interesting options. Yeah, I think the Neal fight is fine, but I think Neal has a fight booked, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let me see. No, he doesn't. Yeah, that fight makes sense. He's certainly somebody, top 10, and I think that's who Woodley should be fighting at this point, for sure. Wouldn't hate it. And as far as if it's not Woodley next for him, who's next for Geoff Neal? So let's look at the rankings again one more time. Dude, I could have sworn he had a fight booked. Let me double check that. No, apparently not. Okay. Yeah, so if you got to book Neal, I say the Woodley fight is not a bad idea. Stephen Thompson would actually be quite fun, to be honest. I like that Stephen Thompson versus Neo fight. That'd actually be a lot of fun. So yeah, I think those two options are good as well. Robbie Lawler as well. That'd be a good fight too. I preferably like to see him against a striker. So again, a Robbie Lawler, Stephen Thompson fight interests me more than a Woodley. But I wouldn't hate a Woodley matchup. Yep. All right, Amy Wee. Thoughts on female fighters, coaches also being their significant others. So yeah, this is in, I guess, in response. What is Hachi doing? It's like Spider-Man right now. What is he doing? So, anyways, he's like climbing on the window. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So, Mike Perry's girlfriend decided to, or she didn't decide. Mike Perry decided to have his girlfriend as his only corner woman, right? Corner man in his co-main event bout with Mickey Gall this past weekend at UFC on ESPN 12. That turned out to be quite well. In the lead up, there was, not gonna lie, that virtual media day, I had the whole time I was picking Mike Perry to win, and I believe in my official MMA Junkie staff picks. You can go check that on that article. I still picked Perry, and I exactly saw the fight playing out the way it did. I just thought that Perry was gonna bully his way through a lot of positions. He's very hard to submit, given his athleticism, his stubbornness. Like in jiu-jitsu, being stubborn can work quite well. Quite well. I mean, if you've ever grappled, you start going against some people that, like, you literally got like a full, triangle choke locked in, textbook. You got everything, right? The lock is perfectly across the upper back. You got the arm across the face. You're pushing up your hips. You're squeezing down on the head. You're doing everything. And there's some people that just refuse to tap. Some people that are just tough, and they somehow get out of things, and you're just like, dude, what the hell am I doing wrong? And the answer is, technically, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just there's certain individuals that are so stubborn, that are just tough to submit, and Mike Perry's one of them, 100%. So that's the way I saw it. And in the striking department, like, Gall might have the movement and the length and the speed to might stick and move a little bit, but Mike Perry's this guy that will take punches, and he doesn't care, and he has a tough chin, and he eventually will close the distance and land on you. And that's exactly what we saw. So you got to be a real high level striker to get past a puzzle like Perry. And Gall, he's just not that. He's a great grappler, but he's just not that. I really thought the Mike Perry matchup was just not good for him, because on the ground, Perry's super stubborn, and on the feet, Gall's good, but he just doesn't have the level of striking of a Vicente Luque that can actually outstrike Mike Perry. So, anyways, so yeah, things went quite well for Mike Perry. I in the lead up, I'm like, oh, I don't know about this, and then you start hearing that there wasn't really, like, he didn't really have like a proper training camp, and he doesn't have coaches, and his girlfriend's his coach, and the corner man or whatever, and things just were not looking good. But he performed quite well. So about significant others in the corners, I think that's usually, it can work. It's not ideal though. Ideally, you want someone that's been there. You want somebody that knows technique. You want somebody that's on the outside looking in, and as you're fighting, analyzing what are the things you could be doing better. What are the things you could change in real time to improve your chances of winning? And although I'm sure it's nice to have some comfort, and Perry did find some comfort with his girl being like, oh, you're doing so well, and rubbing ice on his neck, and he was saying that felt so good, and he was so calm and all that. I believe it. But I do think there is, you do need high level coaching. You do need somebody there in your corner to give you facts. You know what I'm saying? But despite that, I do think Mike Perry had a point throughout all that, and he's like, look, like, either you know how to fight or you don't. And it's very true. I mean, if you are at the gym, whether you're boxing or jiu-jitsu or whatever, the same information gets, administered to a group of people, right? That's a group class, and you just see it. You see some people picking it up faster than others. Some people just naturally know how to fight. Some people don't. Some people are built to fight. Some people are not. And even within the group of the people that are built to fight, some are better than others naturally. And Mike Perry knows how to fight. That dude knows how to fight, and that's very important. And I think that's when we talk about technique and all that, that's often missed, which is like, yeah, you can teach someone the best technique in the world, but not everyone's going to pick it up the same. Not everyone's going to be able to have the intelligence in that specific department to be able to apply those techniques in an actual fight. Not everyone's going to be able to fight through pain like Dan Hooker and Dustin Poirier and still be able to do things technically, and think rationally throughout a fight. So Mike Perry did touch a point that's very important, and it's often forgotten in this day that technique is so advanced, and we're seeing, really the best level of MMA ever. And that's, look, either you know how to fight or you don't, and that a lot of that is natural. Mike Perry is 100% a natural fighter. So I think for this particular matchup, having his girl in his corner, sure, it didn't hurt. I'll say that. But I think if you would have had coaches, maybe he could have been better. But at the end of the day, dude, Mike Perry knows how to fight. So as long as he's in shape, he's able to perform for 15 minutes, which that's what he was booked for. The dude knows how to fight, and that's kind of what he's going back at it. So yeah, I think it could work for Mike Perry. If it could work for any fighter, it'd be Mike Perry. But I do want to know, there are fighters that have had their significant others in their corners. I believe Smiling Sam Alvey always has his wife in his corner, if I'm not mistaken. Always. He also has coaches as well, but his wife's present as well. So yeah, I think for some fighters it could be good, like seeing someone they love, and I'm sure to some people it might make them extra nervous, or to some others it might calm them down, like it did to Perry. So I think there is some benefit to it. But if you're asking me what's better, your girl or a coach, I'd take a coach in that situation for sure. Yeah, but Mike Perry knows how to fight. All right, CP. Evaldo beats Jan. Does it put him ahead of Conor on your list of greatest of all time? Fantastic question. Excellent question. I didn't think of that till just now. All right, right now, without the belt, this is a real question. Throw it in the comments. I want to know what you guys think, because I'm like literally processing this in real time. Who do you think is greater right now, Conor McGregor or Jose Aldo? That's a legit question. Yes, I know about the 13 knockout and all that, but legit, like, think about it. Think about it. Conor has never defended a belt once in the UFC. Um, yeah, he's champ, but how long was Aldo the best featherweight at the, like, for years? And you guys know me, I do give a lot of stock to longevity. Like, if you're able to stay at the top for a really long time, that's something, man. And honestly, I might even say that Aldo is at this point in time, without a bantamweight belt, he's achieved more than Conor McGregor. I think I'd say that. Um, Again, defending a belt time after time after time after time certainly means a lot. As opposed to a three or four fight win streak that had you capture the belt and go up to 155 and capture another belt there. Let's pull up the records. Let's do that, so we have a better assessment. All right, you guys be the judge. I'm gonna read you the schedule here, and you guys tell me who's better. All right, so before Aldo, granted, also, like, Aldo's older than McGregor, right? And certainly in MMA years, he's by far older than McGregor. So keep in mind, there are different points of the career. McGregor might still be prime, whereas Aldo maybe not so much. But you got to put things side by side. You can't just go, well, who was better in 2016 or whenever they fought, 2015. Dude, I mean, Aldo just had at some point in time, Aldo was 25-1. That's before the McGregor fight. I mean, let's just go by sort of UFC Sufa era. So McGregor fought a bunch of dudes in Cage Warriors. Most of them, except Joseph Duffy, don't have Wikipedia pages. So he goes 12-2, and until that point, only one guy, Joseph Duffy, has a Wikipedia page. Then he gets into the UFC, beats Marcus Brimage, Max Holloway, that win aged quite well. Diego Brandao, Dustin Poirier, that win aged quite well as well. Dennis Seaver, Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo. Then loses to Nate Diaz. Then beats Nate Diaz. Then beats Eddie Alvarez. And that's it. That's sort of his height. He's champ. That's it. And then after that, loses to McGregor and beats Cowboy Cerrone. This is what Aldo did. All right. WEC featherweight title eliminator back in 2009. Beats Cub Swanson with a beautiful flying knee like 8 seconds into their fight. Beats Cub Swanson. Beats Mike Brown. Dude, at the time, Mike Brown was a fucking stud. Mike Brown's one of the most underrated champions in the history of sort of like the SUFA era. Because remember, WC was UFC, basically. Like, all they did was out of those fighters to the UFC roster. It wasn't... At like certain weight classes, like 155, 170, where you had two divisions, right? Like UFC and WC. You can make a case of, okay, well, you weren't a UFC champion. But 145, 135, and 125, like, that UFC is WC is the same shit. So, anyways, beats Cub Swanson, beats Mike Brown, beats Uriah Faber, beats Manny Gamburian, beats Mark Hominick, beats Kenny Florian, beats Chad Mendes, beats Frankie Edgar, beats the Korean Zombie, beats Ricardo Lamas, beats Chad Mendes again. And that's when he loses to Conor McGregor, lost to Frankie Edgar, then to Holloway, bounces back, Stevens, Moicano wins, and then 2-fight losing streak. Alexander Volkanovski, that was pretty decisive, and the Marlon Moraes fight, I thought he won. So, yeah, they're kind of neck and neck. I would say slightly, Aldo might have, again, Aldo, because he fought so many good fighters in such a long span and consecutively, I think Aldo might have a better resume. Where McGregor fought in Cage Warriors, solid promotion, did some solid work, but he really has only been fighting sort of top level opposition. Not nearly as long as Aldo. But anyways, so to answer your question, I already think Aldo's a little bit ahead. So if he were to beat Jan and get a bantamweight title to his name, 100% he'd be above McGregor. Yeah. Yeah, McGregor's tricky because he's redefined sort of what the GOAT conversation, because before McGregor, the champ thing wasn't really a thing at all. You kind of saw it with BJ Penn, right, and some of the guys that had gone up to a weight class above to test their luck and all that, but never champ, never 2-division champion. And then McGregor did that, and that looks really nice. Having 2 belts and being champion in 2 divisions at the same time, it's nice. And certainly incredible feat to be a champion in a division, go up in weight class and beat that champion. Certainly something. But again, it all comes down to what do you put more stock in? That, like a one fight, and yes, is beating a champion in another division, which is great, or an actual person that's there year after year defending the belt against the best damn person in their weight class at that time. I think the latter, in my opinion. But I do have to say that the champ does add something to it, and quite a lot, to be honest. But I think the key here is longevity. And that's why GSP is the GOAT in my eyes. Broad Street Sports. Anyway, and Mike Perry could get a fight like Nate Diaz. So Mike Perry's an interesting cat. He is kind of a little bit. When I say money weight division, I mean people that sell money, right? People that sell. I don't necessarily know if Mike Perry is a pay-per-view draw. He's been on pay-per-views, right? But certainly not as a main attraction. I mean, he's never fought for a title. So I do wonder how popular the guy is. Certainly within the community, he is more popular than many other fighters. Especially many other fighters that have his tenure in the UFC. Like, he's been in the UFC for some time, but not like that long of a time. I mean, he's been there for getting close to 4 years, which is something, but not like these other guys like Jim Miller, who has like 30. Like, how many fights does he have in the UFC? Like 20 something or something like that. Um, he is in the money weight division. I would consider him maybe in the lower tier, but certainly someone that you put on a card and people are gonna tune in. Fans love him. Other fighters love him. He is a good personality on camera, um, and he's a freaking exciting fighter to watch. So he's definitely there. So you wonder, with a guy that's 28 years old, um, if the UFC plays, dude, he's a 90s baby. Like, he was born in the 90s. That's pretty young. Uh, Funny enough, he was born September 15th, 1991. I was born September 17th, 1992. So he's a Virgo as well. Interesting. Anyways, dude, yeah, I think Mike Perry has the makings of a star. I don't know if he'll ever challenge for a belt. Not quite sure if he has that ceiling. I think earlier in his career, I had some belief that maybe now at 28 years old, 14-6. I'm not saying he can't team up with a good coach and turn things around and become a title contender, but I would certainly make a case that those chances are a little less now than they were back when he was 25. Because if you look at the people that become champions, like, it's around this age where they start doing, like, building something. When they start getting wins where you're like, okay, this guy might fight for the title, and he's just not there yet. Like, yeah, beating Mickey Gall is nice, but I don't think anyone's like, really looking out for the next title contender, out of that booking. Um, so yeah, I say put him up in fun fights. Why not a Nate Diaz one? That could sell as well. Why not an Anthony Pettis, 170? Put him in these fun fights that build his brand, and that you got a guy that is in the money weight division, and you can put in a card, and he will draw ratings, he'll draw pay-per-view buys, and yeah, why not put Mike Perry in fun fights? I think this Mickey Gall fight was that. Mickey Gall is kind of, I mean, I don't want to say he's in the money weight division, but kind of a little bit in the lower tier, and by money weight is like where your fame and popularity, not that is greater than your skills, but maybe that warrants, that your level of attention might not warrant like your level of skill necessarily. And I don't know if that's again, I don't want it to come off as a diss, because look at McGregor. He's great. He's a champ, former UFC lightweight champion, former UFC featherweight champion, and he's in the money-weight division, right? But then you might have guys just as skilled as McGregor that just might not sell. So it's not necessarily a world-class thing. Is I don't know. That is an interesting discussion though. But yeah, put him in fun fights. Why not? Look, Mike Perry versus who did I suggest the other day, which I thought was a great fight. Let me look at the rankings. Yeah, Mike Perry, Anthony Pettis. Why not? Mike Perry, Nate Diaz. Why not? Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler. Remember that was booked at one point? Why the hell not? Fuck it. Yeah, Mike Perry, Robbie Lawler? Hell yeah. Sign me up. Yeah, those are the type of fights that he should be in. And look, if he manages to be in those type of fights and manages to pick up several wins and manages to show improvement from fight to fight, then you go, okay, maybe this guy might challenge for the belt. But as of now, bro, just have fun with sort of the Mike Perry product. He's a fun fighter. Put him in fun fights. Carlos Condit. Why not? Mike Perry, Carlos Condit. That sounds fun too. Anyways, let's see. Good question here by Tien Trich. Hopefully I said that right. Should we worry about Aldo being able to make weight again? 100%. 100%. You guys know me. I was the biggest Aldo 135 skeptic in the world. So I said it on the MMA beat multiple times. Aldo does not make 135. It's not happening. When he started going back and forth with Triple C, I literally just scuffed it out. I'm like, bro, there's not even a point about asking questions about this. There's no point about pursuing this uh, storyline per se, because it's just not happening. Aldo's not gonna make 135, and he did. So he proved me wrong. So certainly less of a skeptic now than I was back then, because I literally saw him with my own eyes step on the scale and hit 135 pounds. Um, so certainly less of a skeptic now. But let me remind you this: at some point in time, Anthony Pettis was gonna fight Jose Aldo. Remember that? They even took a nice picture at the beach, and there was a whole buzz because that's when Pettis was in the Wheaties cereal box. I don't think I've ever even tried that cereal. Never really. I'm more like a Frosted Flakes type of dude. But anyways, so remember that was a big storyline. Oh, Pettis at 145, Pettis 145, and Pettis indeed did go down to 145. But he couldn't stay at 145. So you can go down a weight class, you can deplete yourself and maybe make it once, maybe make it twice. But there are questions about a sustained run. Like, can you constantly go down, right? And a lot of people actually believe that Anthony Pettis sort of kind of declined because, remember, he went from champion to like alternating wins and losses for several years. A lot of people attribute his sort of downfall, and I think he's still a very good fighter. Don't get me wrong; he's not like out of the UFC or certainly in the bottom of the rankings. He's certainly a pretty damn good fighter still. But a lot of people believe that Anthony Pettis, I don't want to say downfall. I keep going back on that, but like sort of decrease or slight decline is attributed to him ruining his body to 145 pounds. I've heard it in the industry multiple times, and that's certainly something to keep an eye out. Because check this out. Let me put Tapology is actually better for this because it actually shows canceled bouts. By the way, I just saw somebody donate on the super chat. I forgot to mention that at the top of the video. This whole live Q&A has been. This is why I should have done this earlier. But yes, that's available if you want to support this channel and donate something. And you're obviously free to do it. And I would greatly appreciate it, but you're not obligated to. But see, the quality has improved. I got this light in front of me that makes me look a lot whiter, which I do not like, but certainly a lot more clear, which hopefully you guys like. So, all right, so let's take a good look at Anthony Pettis. He's a very, very good case study to pair next to Aldo, because Aldo's basically doing the same thing that Pettis tried to do. Champion, try new, go down in weight class, and have a sustained career in a lower weight class. So yeah, he had a canceled bout with Aldo back in 2013, and that was supposed to be, Yeah. That's why the picture of the beach now makes sense, where they faced off. That was actually in Rio, Rio de Janeiro, and they were both supposed to fight for the featherweight belt at UFC 163. Machida fought Phil Davis, FYI, and that fight didn't come to fruition because I'm pretty sure that Pettis couldn't make the weight. He couldn't get down to 145 pounds. And Korean Zombie stepped in there and fought Aldo instead and lost. Well, no, he pulled out due to knee injury. Never mind, knee injury. But he might have tried going down to 145. Then he got 2 wins. He beat Benson Henderson and got the lightweight title. Then defended it against Gilbert Melendez. Then from there lost the belts to RDA. Then lost to Eddie Alvarez, Edson Barbosa. That's when he went down to 145. Wait, no. Hold on. I'm getting mixed up here. Lost to Edson Barbosa. Then went down to 145 pounds, beat Charles Oliveira, struggled to make the weight, but made the weight to 145 pounds. Then fought Max Holloway for what was supposed to be, I believe at that time, the interim belt because Aldo was out. And that was in Canada. I very, very much remember that. And Pettis couldn't make the weight. He just couldn't hit 145 again. He came close to it. I believe he might have weighed in at 146. But that was one of those situations where if Max Holloway won, he would have won the belt. But if Pettis would have won, it would have been nothing. So it was only a title fight for one person here. So he was able to make the 145 for one fight. And never again. And from that point on, he went to alternate wins and losses. So yes, Aldo made 135 pounds, but do I believe that he can make it a second time? Probably, maybe, but I am skeptical still. I do have some reservation. Also, keep in mind that Jose Aldo can hit 136 in other bouts, but for this bout, since it's a title fight, he has to make 145 pounds. So let me actually pull up how much. Did he actually came in at 135 pounds for his debut? Because he might have come in at 136, and that extra pound is quite a lot, especially when you're pretty depleted. So Aldo, when he fought Marlon Moraes, he came in at 136 pounds. So he did use that one extra pound allowance. So his cut's gonna get a little harder, and that 1 pound's gonna be rough. So yeah, we'll see. I'm not a big of a skeptic as I used to be, but certainly I'm still not, because he made 135 once or 136. I'm not gonna be like, oh, he's good. He's a bantamweight. He looked rough in the build up to the Marlon Moraes fight. So we'll see. I think he makes it, but I still do have some skepticism and some questions about his longevity at 135 pounds. So to answer your question, yes, a little bit worried. Jesus Christ. All right, this is fun. Marco says, can we see Mike Perry fighting Diego Sanchez? Battle of corners. Hell no. Sanchez from now on, Sanchez is an interesting not an interesting fighter, obviously an interesting fighter, but he's in an interesting position is what I'm trying to say. Sanchez is a guy, and this is where I'm a fan of the Legends division. I know a lot of guys hate on it, but I don't mind watching old guys fighting. You don't have to be in your prime to be a professional fighter. If that's the way you make a living, go out there and make a living, right? However, we should take some precautions, especially because there's certain guys they're just not gonna make their way back to a title, and time has passed them by. But they could certainly be at a level where they're still kind of UFC caliber, depending on the matchup. Fans enjoy watching them fight, and if they're not out there embarrassing themselves, then it's all good. And I think Sanchez is clearly in that position. I mean, he's an older fighter. He's a fighter that certainly he's not what he used to be. But if you see him fight, he's always in shape. It's not like he can't fight for 15 minutes. He certainly can. I would argue he can actually fight for 25. So he's in shape, which is number one. So he's not out there embarrassing himself and gassing himself out. He still has world-class skills, especially in the grappling department. His chin might not be what it used to be, but it ain't bad. I mean, he took some big shots from Michel Pereira. So just put him against grapplers. Let's see some fun grappling fights. Let's give opportunities to some young guns to make a name of themselves, but at the same time, in some sort of way, protect Diego Sanchez, and at the same time, allow him to make a damn living, right? Shit. So just put him against grapplers, really. And when he fights grapplers, you're actually not watching a lesser product. It's not like, you got to go somewhere else. Like, you ain't UFC caliber anymore. No. When he fights grapplers, you see world-class grappling going down. That's one of the last things to go out, your grappling. So let me pull up Diego Sanchez's record here. So I really do believe that there are fun matchups for Diego Sanchez. Put him up against Damian Maia. 100%. I'm all down for Diego Sanchez versus Damian Maia. I dig it. Put him up against. Dude, there's so many like fun matchups you can do. Put him up against. Oh, he fought Mickey Gall already. Um, yeah, put him up against Damian Maya. Put him up against. Let me see here. And no, Perry, no, certainly not Perry. Damian Maya one is, I think it's at the top of my list. Plus both guys won the matchup, so why the hell not? Man, this UFC site is rough to navigate sometimes. Let's assume he wants to stick at 170 pounds, right? Although I do get a feeling he could probably make 155, but for this specific exercise, let's assume he sticks with the welterweight division. So yeah. Ooh, you know what would be fun? Miguel Baeza, undefeated prospect who knocked out Matt Brown in his last outing. Miguel Baeza versus Mike Perry. Sign me the fuck up. Fuck it. Mike Perry versus Matt Brown. Sign me up. Mike Perry versus Robbie Lawler. Sign me up. So, anyways, but as far as Sanchez, honestly, that David Maya might be the only matchup that makes sense right now. I'm going down through the welterweight division right now, and he's fought so many guys already that it's kind of hard to find him a fresh matchup. Diego Sanchez versus the Leech. The Leech is a strong wrestler. Why not? I kind of like that. I like the sound of that. Diego Sanchez versus. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Fuck it. Diego Sanchez versus versus um versus Ryan Hall at 155. That sounds fun. That sounds fun. So yeah, I mean, the UFC can put them in fun matchups if they want, but if they want to feed them to the wolves, they can do that as well. But I just don't think it's the right way to go about it. It's not the right way to continue to match up a UFC Hall of Famer, someone that's done so much for the promotion. Gustavo Jauregui says, Barcelona lost today. I consider that a loss technically, but it was a draw to Atleti. Atleti should have won that though. So what am I going? Okay, so I've actually gone 4 minutes past the mark. So I'm gonna answer a couple more questions and bounce out. So I'm gonna be a little selective with these questions. Anonymous123, just shout out to that guy for donating to the super chat. Keep it up. Keep it going, Danny. 100%. The train keeps rolling, my friend. Amy Wee, but don't you want McGregor versus DS3? That's the fight I want most for both guys. But McGregor's retired, remember? Frosted Flakes is dope. Yeah, 100%. All right, so I'll take these couple questions that I saw. Mystic Gamer saying, who do you think the top 5 biggest MMA stars are, not including McGregor, in terms of power and money, I guess. So if you guess, I guess John Jones. Well, no, if you want me to put them in order, I'll just give you the top 5 regardless of order, because order gets kind of tricky. But if you got to put a top 5 of the biggest stars today in the UFC, it's got to be Nate Diaz. It's got to be Jorge Masvidal. It's got to be John Jones. It's got to be 100%. Those are top 3. And the next top 2 would be. That's a tough one. Would you say? I think DC at this point is probably still a bigger star than Israel Adesanya. Would you say? It doesn't feel like it necessarily because it feels like again Adesanya is very much at the top and starting to get into his groove, whereas DC's on his way out. But still, if we were talking straight numbers, I think DC's probably more of a proven star than Adesanya. So I'd go with DC as well. I'd put DC in that list, and I feel like I'm missing somebody. 125, nope. 135, nope. I have questions about the stardom of Amanda Nunes. I think in our eyes, in the bubble, it's like, oh my God, Amanda Nunes. But I do have questions as far as like how many people actually know her outside of that with the casuals. Um, so, I don't know who number fifth would be. Trying to think. Um, yeah, I don't know. That's that. Oh, Habib, but that's an obvious one. Jesus Christ, I can't believe I didn't think of that guy. But yeah, Habib, 100%. So John Jones, Habib, Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal, and Daniel Cormier. I would say those are the top 5 stars in the UFC outside of Conor McGregor. Jesus, I can't believe I missed that one. Yeah, and I saw one more question here. I'll tackle. Yeah, the comments were like, yeah, Habib, of course. All right, anonymous dude 123. Name a coach you respect in MMA, one in football slash soccer, and do they have anything in common? Thanks. So I mean, in MMA, I respect all the coaches. I think, for the most part, all of them do great, fantastic job. For example, I have a lot of respect for I mean, there's so many. I mean, really, it's not like I don't respect anyone. So I have respect for all. But if you're asking of coaches that I specifically like, um, Mike Brown, I think he does a fantastic job. I think Mike Brown is one of the best coaches out there. Um, and also as a human being, he's a very nice guy, a very cool dude. That's a guy that like since day one, from when I was just coming up on the MMA media game, and I was just working by myself, and I had my own YouTube channel, and just I wasn't with Junkie, I wasn't with fighting, I wasn't with anyone, um, and I had my own thing. He's the guy that gave me interviews very early on. Always super nice guy. Very much respect that dude. Um, Greg Jackson, another nice guy that I've interviewed him, and also you gotta respect what he's done. He's got so much history in the sport, and he's been in coached some of the greatest of all time. So you got to respect that guy. Henry Hooft is a fantastic coach. I think Trevor Whitman is a great coach. Mark Montoya, although he's been in some controversy with stopping some fights and stuff like that, regardless, I think he's a fantastic coach as well. Um, who else? I'm trying to think of someone that's not that obvious. Obviously, the guys over at City Kickboxing, Eugene. You gotta have respect for that guy. Dude, a guy that doesn't get the respect is Manolo, this old Cuban guy from American Top Team. American Top Team in like Kendall, like Miami, not Coconut Creek. They used to call him Manolo Top Team, and he used to train all the Cubans. So he was Joel Romero's boxing coach. He was actually involved with the whole ice thing with Joel Romero when he fought Tim Kennedy. He's got so much history as far as boxing is concerned, and he does well with MMA. An early coach for Alex Caceres as well. I believe he's worked a lot with Masvidal. Might have been the guy who really got Masvidal's hands going. Manolo. Yeah, he's a guy that's very low key, no social media, doesn't do any interviews, but he's had a good influence in MMA, and a lot of people don't know about him. And I should actually try to do a story on that guy. Now that I think about it, certainly one of the hidden gems in this sport. Manolo, yep, old Cuban dude. All right, so and as far as soccer, shit, I mean, there's so many as well. I mean, my favorite is obviously Diego Simeone. I think what he's done with Atletico Madrid just turned that team around. I like his tactics. I think he's very smart. I like his changes as how he handles the team, what he represents for the team. That guy's my favorite as well. But I like Mourinho as well. Mourinho is a good personality, very defensive as well. I like defensive football. Um, who else do I like as a coach? Sarri. I like Sarri. He's got good tactics as well. Loved when he was at Napoli. Um, he's at Chelsea now, right? Chelsea's been doing quite well, if I'm not mistaken. Mm, I like what Conte has been doing with Inter. I like Inter. This team that we're seeing in Inter, I very much like that squad. Very good work as well. Um, Trying to think of others. Um, hmm. I don't like Zidane at all, but that's because he benches my boy James Rodriguez. Yeah, there's a good amount out there that I respect and I like. All right. Anyways, so I've gone past the hour mark. You guys know me. I usually like just keeping these about an hour, but I did want to make it up to you guys because I did not put the tweet requesting questions earlier in the morning, which I know that kind of hindered people to submit Twitter questions. But we made it up with the YouTube live chat. So yeah, those extra 10 minutes. That's my gift to you guys. But yeah, moving forward with this live Q&A. Obviously, still Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. ET. And yes, I will, make note of that. I might actually try out. I know I put a poll on this last week, but I might try out the 10:30 a.m. slot. It's a slot that suits my schedule. It's a slot that a lot of you guys voted for it to go down in, and it kind of suits kind of all time zones. Certainly the European audience, which I think I have a good amount of European followers. Certainly everyone on the Eastern time zone, Central. It might be a little bit early for the Pacific people. Obviously, that would be like 7:30 a.m. But maybe I'll join you guys with some cafecito when you're having your breakfast. So it might work out. It might work out. So that's something I'm willing to try. So if there is any schedule change, remember just follow me on Twitter. I'll update you guys if I'm gonna go live whenever and when that's gonna go down. What else as far as updates? I interviewed Jairzinho Rosenstruck about his loss to Ngannou, also his upcoming fight with Junior Dos Santos. Expect that on MMA Junkie. I'm working on a few other interviews as well, so be on the lookout for that, as well as some interesting projects that have been in the work for quite some time, and it looks like everything's coming to fruition. So soon you will get some news as far as on that end. It'll be for MMA Junkie, and I'm very, very excited for these projects. So stay tuned. Probably within the next couple weeks, I think you guys should hear more regarding that. Exciting stuff, though. It's all good news. And that's it. Thank you so much. Remember, just subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Tell friends about it. That's the best way to spread this, right? Hey, look, there's this guy doing this pretty cool MMA live chat. Check it out. Thank you so much to everyone that donated to the super chat. Always much love with that. And that's it. I'll see you guys next week. I'm out of here.